Blog Talk Radio.
923, I'll give you corrected address. So you have a fire in a one-story ordinary. Looks like it's about 40 by 120 to 125. We'll get your traffic control. Squad 5, Squad 5. Over to 273, 273. Over Battalion 18, 18th Battalion. Over to 273, 273.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Fire Engineering Talk Radio and another installment of the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. I'm glad to have you here with me this evening. I'm your host, Tom Merrill, and today is Tuesday, January 23rd, and we're already into the year 2018. Greetings from my hometown in blustery and windy and rainy Buffalo, New York. Been a tough winter so far, although it was up in the 40s today, and it's quickly dropping now into the 30s, and the wind is howling, and I can hear my local fire departments out running a lot of alarm activations and wire down calls, and I'm hoping that I don't lose the internet tonight because it's got a lot to talk about. As I mentioned, we're into a new year. Happy New Year to everybody, and I'm wishing everybody out there the very best, personally as well as professionally. And there's that word again, of course. I am referring to your role as a volunteer firefighter and that as a professional volunteer firefighter. And I thought since, it's the beginning of a new year, it would be a good opportunity for me to reinforce that to all of us as firefighters, and how we need to strive to at all times be professional and earn that term, earn that title, because it is no way automatically assigned to anybody. That title is not assigned automatically to anybody when they are sworn onto the job in a paid department or welcome into a volunteer department. Oh, no. The professional title is earned, and once it's earned, it continues to be earned by hard work, by commitment, by proper actions, proper behavior. It's a title that's not just handed to you with a paycheck, and it's a title that can be applied to career, paid firefighters, and volunteers as well. And it can be earned by everybody listening tonight, and I'm sure since you're taking the time to listen tonight or down the road on a replay that, you know what, you probably already share the belief, and I'm preaching to the choir, but that's okay because we need to work together to remind ourselves, and hopefully our passion will wear off on those that we serve with, and hopefully they'll embrace it as well. And again, this year, as we move forward into another year of podcasts and fire engineering shows, we're going to focus on actions and behaviors and skills that we can employ to help make us all be really sharp and really professional and help our departments enjoy a professional reputation in our communities. And as we start 2018 off, I want to reassure you that I will continue to try to bring on guests and discuss pertinent topics that affect all of us in the volunteer fire service. But actually, you know what? We're going to discuss things that affect the entire fire service because, you know what? So many of the issues, so many of the challenges are so similar. And that's what we're going to focus on again in 2018. If you'd like to reach out to me to talk about issues you're having, maybe come up with some ideas for future shows, recommend future guests, talk about challenges we can talk. Also, talk about success stories because there are so many good, successful, professional volunteer fire departments and professional volunteer firefighters out there doing great things. Please reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department Facebook page. My email, I'm easy to get a hold of, tamerrill63@AOL.com. I'm on Twitter. I've been fortunate enough to be traveling a little bit, meeting so many of you. I've got a schedule coming up that's pretty full the next couple months. I'll be in New Jersey in a couple weeks. I'm going to be at a law conference in New York in another month and several other places. And it fires me up because I meet so many great people and we share so many great success stories. And we also share challenges that we talk about and try to come up with solutions. So, again, If you're having issues in your department, feel free to reach out to me. And as we start the new year off, I continue to get emails and correspondence from people who gave me the idea for tonight's show because they might be having some issues in their home department. Poor leadership maybe has got them down. They want to be professional. They want to go to calls. They want to train, but something's missing, or their training program is weak, or maybe doesn't even exist at all, and they're stuck in a rut, or worse, they're thinking of quitting. You know, some of you might be new officers or maybe even new chiefs of department. So what you're looking to do is be the change agent for your department. And maybe you don't quite know where to start. So that's some of the things we're going to talk about and explore tonight to maybe get the year off to a really good start for everybody, to reinvigorate yourself, to fire up your department membership, pardon the pun, fire up your membership to train and work hard to serve the communities that you all provide service for. You know, sometimes we do need to hit that reset button, and that's okay. Sometimes we need to explore what we can do better personally. And maybe as a leader, we need to look in a mirror and look at new ways of doing things or see maybe what we're missing on or what we can do to help our department. You know, maybe you're a veteran officer or a chief and haven't been getting those results you want to. So you're looking for answers as well, and that's okay. And maybe you have some unique circumstances that you're looking for help tonight on, that maybe you just can't find the answer yourself, and that's why we'd like to encourage you to call in. And again, the number to call in, 760-454-8852. We would love to hear from you. Talk about your challenges. Talk about some of the issues you're facing. Talk about whatever's on your mind that maybe myself and my guest tonight can help get you refocused and re-energized for the year ahead. Thanks to Fire Engineering, who again is sponsoring the show tonight. This is Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio. Tonight's episode, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. And I'm so excited. I'm so incredibly honored and absolutely blown away that I could get him on the show tonight, because tonight I have a very special guest, and he's certainly well qualified to help maybe solve your problem and help right the ship in your organization, because he's one of the most well-known and respected fire service leaders we have today. He's not only a legend, but he's a true gentleman, a man who needs no introduction. He's certainly well qualified to help us out tonight. We were also going to have a second guest tonight, and that was Chief John Salka, but it's his birthday tonight. He kind of forgot about that after he made the commitment to be on the show. We take the time to wish Chief Salka a happy birthday, and I'm sure he's out having a great time tonight celebrating his birthday. But we do have Chief Rick Lasky with us tonight, and I would love to welcome him aboard. Chief, are you with me?
Hi, Tom. I'm with you. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. Great to have you with us here tonight, and I know you share wishing birthday wishes to your good friend, Chief Salka.
He's, and you know him. He's such a very good friend of yours as well. And John is he's on fast, 100 miles an hour all the time. And it's funny because I call him and say, hey, we're going to do the show with Tom. He goes, oh, I forgot it. Because I tell him, I say, happy birthday. He goes, it's my birthday. I go, yeah, it's your birthday. But I know he would have loved to have been here with you, especially because John's one of those great guys. Great advocate of men and women in the fire service, career firefighter for a long time, and a volunteer. I think this is 41st year now. I know 41st year. He's first assistant chief, getting ready, as he works his way through the chairs to be chief again and back around for the umpteenth time. Loves the job and really does. It doesn't matter where you're from. I don't care how big, how small, the department you're with. He loves you just the same. So I hope he's enjoying. In fact, I know he's enjoying his birthday.
Absolutely. You bring up a good point, and it's a perfect spot to start off with, because you mentioned how Chief Salka is a long time volunteer. But at the same time, now, Chief, I usually start off when I have special guests like yourself on with this question or this discussion. I mean, you've certainly been around the country and the world, traveling everywhere, instructing as well as learning, and you've been to hundreds, if not thousands, of firehouses, meeting thousands of firefighters. And I'd like to spend a minute getting your buy-in to the whole premise of my show and the series of articles that I've been writing and the presentation I do, just trying to get the message out that, even though, and not even not even demeaning it by saying even though, but yes, we're volunteer firefighters, but that does not mean we cannot be professional.
Well, and Tom, you've been, first of all, and I want to, before we go any further, thank you so much for your kind words. And, you and me and my buddy John Salka, Chief Bobby Hall, we're just firefighters that love the job. That's all we are, and we just love what we do. But we've been together before at conferences. I know you've been a special guest a couple times on our show, and one of the messages I try to send, Tom, and I just did this. I was in Washington State with my good friend Greg Osborne and Paul Wagner up there. Great people, guys that get it. And there was a good mix of career and volunteer firefighters for the conference. And they'll come up to get a book or talk or whatever. And Tom, you've heard me say this before. Excuse me. One of them, I'll say, "So where are you from?" And they'll say, "Well, I'm from a small." And I'll just say, "I'm just from a small volunteer department. I have one station or two or whatever." And I almost always cut them off in a nice way. I'll say to them, I say, "So when you say small, you mean your guys can't get dead like anybody else's guys?" And they go, "Well, we're not New York City or Chicago or Houston or L.A." I'm like, "Well, neither are they." And that's not a disrespectful to us, but you pull the metro departments out of the line of duty death numbers and injuries every year. It's us. We make it up. I don't care. We had a tragedy in Teague, Texas. Lost a great chief down here, several years ago, and it was a smaller department, but he's gone just as much as the chief, the battalion chief in New York City not too long ago. We don't bring one less bagpiper. Everybody's, we serve the same purpose. When someone calls and they need us, some happen to be in the firehouse, some happen to be at home. I've said it before. We all know that probably 80%, Tom, right, make up roughly, give or take, the entire fire service in. Well, actually, in the United States and Canada, because I know we have some Canadian listeners tonight. It doesn't really matter. I've said this before. I was a volunteer for a long time. The only reason I had to stop is because I had my career chief's job. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? They still want us to come and either put out their fire, take care of their loved one when they're sick or hurt, or help them for whatever they need. They call us for everything. So, the whole end of it being a professional thing, I think even more so for anyone who wears that Maltese cross on their T-shirt or that badge or puts that helmet on, you have an absolute obligation to be a professional, no matter where, how big, how small, whatever your makeup of your department is. So I love what you do. I brag, first of all, and let me get this out of the way because I love bragging about you. I love bragging about, your department. There's several that are the model volunteer fire departments. I talk about good buddy Jeff Bryant in Amboy, Illinois. There's certain departments you look at and you go, God, when you walk in, like you walk into your firehouse, you can tell. You could just tell. The moment you walk in, you could tell they get it, and that the guys and gals get it there. It just, and that they know and they understand what it's all about. I love the fact that you've written the series and you do the shows and you teach the classes among other things, but focusing on let's just talk tonight about the professional volunteer fire department. That's it. I'll be honest with you, I think volunteer firefighters sell themselves short more than anybody else does. I think they don't give themselves the credit they deserve, for what they do, how they do it. I've got a class called the Volunteer Firefighter Defining Selflessness. I know very few. Here's a recruiting poster for you, Tom. Okay, maybe we'll have our good buddy Paul Combs, who's instructor, ISS instructors, instructor of the year coming up at FDIC.
I saw the announcement today. Kudos to him. That's awesome. Brad.
Congratulations. Well, he needs to do a recruitment poster for us, like the Uncle Sam one during the wars and that. And here's the recruitment poster, and I say it's to class. All right, we want you to come be a volunteer firefighter. So that means we want you to come spend your own money. We want you to take time away from your family. We want you to take time away from your job. We want you to commit to something that, isn't going to, buy you a new car, a new house, and all this stuff. We want you to just, you can tell I'm being a little bit sarcastic because think about the person, truly, for our listeners, that it takes to be a volunteer firefighter. I don't care if you get a stipend, if you're on call, or you get a yearly stipend, or whatever. That's all great, and I think that's wonderful, but what a volunteer firefighter has to do in the way of commitment Truly, I said it. I'm going to put money in my own vehicle to go up there and take care of people. It takes someone special to do that. It takes someone who truly understands what it means to be a person that has values in their life, that has integrity, that has honor, and most importantly, ownership. That this is my community. I want to take care of people, and I always joke about that. I said the real psychopaths in our classrooms, it's your volunteers. They all laugh. I go, no, Jesus. So you want me to come and do this like for free, and you want me to spend my money for free? And as funny as that sounds, I'm being serious. That look at what it takes to be a volunteer firefighter. They absolutely define selflessness. And I know I went on there for a little bit, but I think the only people selling volunteer firefighters short sometimes are the volunteers that don't truly understand just what they do and the impacts they have in their communities. It's incredible.
Yeah, and you did bring up a good point there, because it's something too that I bet you the average volunteer doesn't even think about what you just said, because first of all, they just love doing it. They love being a firefighter, and they love serving their community. So they're not even thinking about any of those maybe sacrifices that you just described at all, because to them, no, that's what they signed up for. It's just part of the job, and they're happy to do it. But along with that, and that's where we get into the reminders that as a firefighter, every now and then we need to remind them of certain behaviors and expectations, and I guess that would be a good segue into the role of a good mentor. And first of all, thank you very much for the compliment you paid to my department. I appreciate that, and I was fortunate to inherit that from the great leaders that came before me, and keep it going, and I'll pass it on to our future leaders, and they've been doing a great job, and so many great departments surrounding our area. It's a great culture in this Western New York area of good professional volunteer departments, and I was just fortunate to be part of it here and help keep it going, but surrounded by so many of them here, which is great. But so let's talk about that, though. So as a volunteer, sometimes you don't even think about it, but we do got to remind ourselves from time to time, and also as we bring in new members, kind of mentor them the right way and show them the way of being a firefighter. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I like I said, I thank God that we have people that can pick up the phone and talk to people like yourself. And like I talk about John, someone, there are a lot of volunteer departments that struggle with. A lot of volunteer chiefs have been, voted, elected, appointed, and they're like, they want to do a great job, but it's no different than any. I can't tell how many times I've called people and asked for, I still do, ask for advice, but I think you hit the nail on the head, Tom, when you said, if we don't do this from the very beginning, when that new volunteer firefighter, when that new firefighter walks through the door, and I know some places are challenged when it comes to recruitment, to get enough people to come in through that door, but I've said this before. I'd rather run short and have a good nucleus than run full and have a couple problem children I'm dealing with the whole time. But I think the older, the more seasoned, and Tom, I think you'll agree, that could be maybe someone with just 10 years with your department. They need to set the example. They need to lead by that example, and they need to sit down with those new firefighters when they come in and explain to them what it takes to be a firefighter where they're at, what it took for those before them to get the department. Like you said it perfectly. I've said before when you lose good people in departments, our good friend Chief Alan Brunasini, God rest his soul, I used to tell myself, I'm losing my guys, and he says, well, the great thing about having great people is they're great. The bad thing is other people want them. And I'm like, yeah, but to hang on to them and to get them there and so on and so forth. Well, to have somebody when to sit down with that new firefighter when they walk in, truly explain to them, there have been a lot of people that went before us, came and went, worked hard, sweat, blood, tears, everything to get this department where it's at. And again, you said it so nicely that, hey, the great thing about having a great department is great, but there was a lot of people put a lot of work in before us, and I think that's probably the reminder we first need to do is let the new firefighters know there's been a lot of work, a lot of sweat equity put into this department, how we've got to where we got the reputation, so on and so forth, and please understand one person can throw that all out the window in a heartbeat. So we need to know that you're willing to commit to a life of selflessness, to one of that you're taking care of people, and we're there for them at we're at our best when they're at their worst and all that. But I think our senior firefighters have to set the tempo, have to lead by example, and grab a hold of those young firefighters. Not the bullying, not the thuggery stuff, Tom. That stuff that should be gone. I'm talking, put their arm around them, say, come here for a second. Let me explain how things work here, what it is we truly do, and it's more than just a T-shirt and a hat. It's more than just saying I'm part of that department, that you're part of something special. I think you're right on with
Absolutely. That. Yeah, one of the things I do want to talk about tonight, too, and you mentioned it, is the role of the senior firefighter. And I know in paid departments, some of them even have ceremonies. I know FDNY does a 20-year dinner, things like that. But in the volunteer ranks, it's almost like it's a great title to be a senior man or woman. It's a great title, but there again comes, just like there comes a responsibility to be a professional firefighter, I think you even need to work hard to exemplify the role of a senior firefighter. In other words, your image, your behavior is watched by the new members, and if you're just taking that title senior person and not training still, or not treating people the right way, or treating the firehouse the right way, it's all kind of mute, isn't it? So if you're a senior firefighter listening, you need to act accordingly as well. I don't buy that I've been training for 20 years, I'm done. If you're a senior firefighter, you can really make an impact on a new recruit by attending drills and participating in drills, or emptying the trash still. And there's so many things that a senior firefighter should do, right, Chief?
Oh, absolutely. And I mentioned this a couple of times before in classes, that Tom, who impressed me the most, and I never could get this, because it's like, and hopefully we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show about picking and choosing our calls, which we some places we got to a point where our volunteers kind of pick and choose which calls you want to respond to, and I'll never forget. I mean, I used to live. I could see if I looked out my window, right, like diagonally, there was the firehouse. I could see it. Okay, I could see the firehouse in the parking lot. 2:00 in the morning, they would dispatch like an inside gas leak. All right. When other people are rolling over because it's not, quote unquote, one of those exciting calls, maybe a structure fire, I'm out the door like jumping jack flash. I'm in my car. I'm there, and this guy. We had this one guy like 25 years. I don't know if he slept in the parking lot, Tom, or if he how he did it, but he beat me. And I'm like, if when you say about like lead by example and all that, here's a guy with 25 years that could beat me to the firehouse at 2 a.m. for a gas leak call. If anyone deserved the right to say, let some of the younger guns take the call, it's a guy with 25 years. But he didn't. You know what I'm saying? He showed up when he could, and same thing with drill night. He showed up for drill night. He taught drills. He was the perfect guy, Tom, when you hand me a younger firefighter. That the challenge for a lot of out there departments is, okay, I've got my guys with all the years. I've got these guys. Now I've got a couple new guys. Oh, man, how do I blend them into the fold? We're already past that point. And you take this senior guy or gal. When I say guy, I mean male, female. And you say, do me a favor. Look at this Tom Merrill. Look at this Rick Lasky. These two new guys. Do me a favor. Go over there and work with their air packs, Donnie Doff. Well, we're doing this so no one really falls behind, and we can kind of get them caught up. And those senior guys and gals become like they're your mentor. They're like your buddy. You know what I'm saying? You end up sewn to their side, and when you see them, you go up to me and you tell them. You say, hey, Lisa or Tom. So what do we do tonight? Well, we got to get this set up. Okay. Tell me what I got to do. And all of a sudden, there's this like chain of mentoring this senior man, which is senior guy gal. We all know what we're talking about. All of a sudden, there's this whole plan, this whole pathway that you walk down through your career where you go, I can remember when I first started, there was this old dude that came up and grabbed a hold of me and explained things and made sure I didn't screw up and all that. I think we're kind of missing that, Tom, nowadays. I think we're missing some of the people that we need to step up. We need that senior guy or gal, that senior man. All right, let's just call it, male, female, call it, senior man.
Yep. When we say senior man, we are referring to male and female for sure.
Yeah, we need them. We need them more than ever, Tom, to step up. You know what I'm saying? To be that senior guy, that mentor, more than ever. I think we need it more than ever. I can remember, like I said, that guy. I remember him helping me with air pack. I mean, just I got one more for you. You talk about a good senior guy story, Tom. I'm at a place teaching, and they end up having a run, right? They end up having a run,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm walking. We took a break. We're going to reset. They're going to come back and sit down, and I'm walking to the restroom. And as I'm walking on the bay, there's a senior guy who's got a young firefighter off to the side of the engine by himself, and I can overhear him say, "So what are you doing Tuesday night?" And he says, "Nothing." "Okay, good. Come up here about 7 o'clock. I'll meet you here. There's usually nobody here about 7 o'clock. You and I are going to work on donning off in our air packs together. We're going to work on putting them on and take them off together." I thought, I wanted to go grab the guy, shake his hand, but I didn't want to. I just walked by, I did my thing, and I thought, Tom, God, how cool was that? He's like, "Meet me up here Tuesday, at 7 o'clock, and we're going to get, we need those senior people more than ever." And Tom, I think the senior guy doesn't have to have 20 years on. They just have to have some time on your department and show some fire service maturity, don't you think?
Yeah. You know what? You're absolutely right. It could be someone with 10 years for sure. You know what I call that, Chief? I call that quiet professionalism. Not looking for a lot of hoopla and accolades and pats on the back. You're into the job, and you want to bring up the next generation, and you're taking some time to mentor them. It could be, I find a great opportunity for people to do that. Maybe is, you get an EMS run or a run where one of your rigs is out or two, so there's other firefighters hanging at the firehouse waiting for them to come back. It's a great opportunity for a senior person to take the newer person and walk them around and maybe look at some of the rigs that are still at the firehouse and go over some of the equipment and talk about how their first few months or first year in the firehouse has been going. Are there any struggles? It's just, there's so much you can do. And at the same time, with everything that you said, as far as the senior member goes, to me there's two sides to it. Number one is everything you said about extending yourself to help mentor and train the next generation. But the second part is the people running the show today need to extend that courtesy to them as well. It's give respect to earn respect, and the senior people must continue to not just rest on their laurels, but at the same time, those running the show today need to recognize their 10-year, 15, 20-year members and reach out to them and let them know they're still count on them. They're a valuable part of the organization. And, oh, by the way, how'd you like to take some time with the new member Charlie here or the new member Jane and work with them? Or how'd you like to work with us on drill in a couple of weeks? You used to always teach nozzles. We'd love you to do a nozzle drill or something like that. It's give respect to earn respect, two-sided. You earn it as a senior firefighter by continuing to train, by continuing to participate and come around, and then you also are extended that respect from the current administration.
Well, you said it quite now. We refer to them as those silent heroes that lead that way, that do all that work for you behind the scenes with the new members. But again, yes, and I kind of hinted towards before, without the bullying, we don't need to bully. We don't need the thugs to yell and sit down and shut up, don't say nothing, and the calling people boots and rook and all this stuff. If you have a good talk with them when they start, and you kind of set the parameters for them as this is what we expect, and so on and so forth. I don't think you have to. I really hate that stuff anyway, the bullies and the thugs. But you know what I'm saying, that they have that atmosphere when they come in, that they know someone's going to take care of them, not just in at a fire, but in the firehouse as well, because that's where it all starts. But then they're going to give them the tools. I don't know, Tom. Have you ever met anybody that wasn't nervous the first time they walked into a firehouse? For that first day or that first night, that first drill night or meeting night, or wasn't scared.
Right.
Oh my God!
No.
And there's nothing. Right? There's nothing better when you get a more tenured. Hey, I don't care, 5, 8 year, 10-year, or 20-year person that kind of grabs a hold and says, "Come here, let me show you how we do things." Because I was there once. That kind of thing.
And what did Bruno always say? Just be nice. Be nice.
Well, yeah, just be nice. I mean, and I'm telling you, if you work hard, if you're a person that has a good character, a person that has values, if you understand what it truly means to be a firefighter, that it's an honor and a privilege to serve as a firefighter, that little kids look up to you. There's a reason why we're on the children's books, and I tell people all the time, you can go to Toys R Us, there's a whole aisle full of toys dedicated to firefighters at Toys R Us. It's more than just I get the hat, the T-shirt. It means, I'm part of something very special. I think that's why so many volunteer firefighters, Tom, wear the stuff. You know what I'm saying? We all, a volunteer career, we're proud. You know, I know very few people that work in a job they hate that they can't wait to wear their shirt or hat around town. That's not the case. We're very happy and proud of what we do, knowing that we're there for people when they need us.
Absolutely. And hey, just like to take a quick minute here to remind our listeners that this is the Professional Volunteer Fire Department. So glad to have you here with us tonight on another installment of Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio. I am with Chief Rick Lasky talking about everything volunteer fire related. And if you'd like to call in, if you have a question for the Chief or you're having a problem or a situation you might need some help with or some leadership questions, please feel free to call in at 760-454-8852. And Chief, one of the questions I get quite often is, and this is a great time of year to bring it up, I get the email or I get the phone call from someone that might say something like, I'm just a lieutenant or I'm just an assistant chief. The problem is with our chief and there's nothing I can do to right the ship. And I don't know what to do. Our top leadership's bringing us down. I can't stay focused. Do you have any advice for people having issues or situations like that where they feel like they're powerless? I think you once said the best thing you could. I think Bruno told you, didn't he, when you were leaving once, that you can learn a lot from a bad boss. Just do everything he doesn't do. Or don't do everything opposite of what he does.
Yeah, one of my mentors, Chief Tom Freeman, he's now the chief in Elmhurst, Illinois, told me, he pointed to my boss, who was not a very good boss, and I asked him for some advice. And to be that new fire chief, he says, do everything the opposite of that guy. And I'm like, and I laughed. He goes, no, I'm serious. You just went through boot camp for fire chiefs. And God, I swear to God, Tom, it's worked. Every time I have a tough decision, I wonder how that guy would have handled it. And I do the opposite, and it works every time. But
you can learn a lot from a bad boss.
Oh God, you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from a good one, right? Too, how they carry themselves, how they treat their people, the public, how they treat the job, how into the job they are. They respect the uniform. But oh my goodness, when somebody writes me those emails, and I know you get them too, where they're like, "What do I got a bad boss," and I'm like this, and they go 10 pages, and I go, God, I don't know how to answer an email. But I guess my best advice would be for you, when you hit your knees tonight, you say your prayers. Thank God for giving you a bad boss to work for, because there's not a college education that's going to give you the education you're going to obtain. When you're done with your little pity party, woe was me, I'm working for a bad boss, grab a pad of paper and just write down everything they're doing and do the opposite of it. But you bring up a good point. It's easier said than done. But a lot of people ask us, right? Don't they? Like you said, what do I do? I want to love the job, but I got this chief that doesn't care. Or he's mean or he does this or whatever, and blah 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 blah. And how do I get past that? I'm like, I one of the questions I'll ask them, I'll say, so what rank are you? And they'll say, well, I'm a firefighter. And I'll say, okay, so that's the chief, right? And I'm like, and jokingly, I'll go, well, just kill him. And they go, what? I go, my wife gets mad when I say it. I go, kill him. And I go, well, sure. I go, well, I don't know what else you can do. You can't unhire him. You can't unpromote him. You can't unelect him. You can't kill him. And they're like, well, I'm sorry, I'm Chief Lasky. I said, look, I'm joking. But you're there's very few, I'll say this, there's very few firefighters that can change a chief per se, you know what I'm saying? However, it's one of those, best advice I got early in my career, Tommy, was worry about the things you can fix, not the things you can't. Well, you know what? I can't fix that bad boss, you know what I'm saying? But you know what I can do? I can get myself dialed in and tuned up as best I can and take care of the guys and gals around me and be into the job and work my butt off to get into a position where one day when I'm in that seat, I can be the opposite of that guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it takes some patience. It takes some patience to get there. But, you know what I'm saying? There's very few things you could – I think one of the best things you do when you have a bad boss is be the best firefighter you can be. It just I don't know, sometimes it just – I just you know what? At least when you go home and you go to bed, you say, you know what? Because otherwise, aren't you? You're kind of you're kind of just, if you don't, then you just kind of go through the motions. You're becoming you're just like that kind of way. You know, you might be the best you can be. Be the mentor. Show up for more calls than ever. Show up for more drills than ever. Show up early. Head up projects. Everything. You know what? The only person you have to satisfy, to be honest, is yourself, right? I mean, that's the whole pride and ownership thing. The whole pride thing, it in a nutshell, pride isn't about outperforming, outdoing someone else. It's about outperforming yourself. How can I get better? I can't worry about the rest of it. You know what I could do? I could worry about myself and do everything I can to be the best I can be, and let the chips fall. Fire chiefs come and go, But those firefighters, those firefighters and officers that are tuned up and they're into the job and they're like I tell you, that 25 people draft that energy. They they draft off of that and they eat it up, the good ones, and you end up with a larger nucleus of great folks that are into the job. I think that's probably the best ways to deal with it, because really what else can you do unless your chief is doing something illegal? If you just don't like their leadership or their personality, why would? Here's my other thing. You and I love the fire service. We love our families come first, but we love the fire service more than life itself. However, I did it once. I'm not going to let a bad boss steal my love for the job away from me ever again. Make me miserable, make me sad, make me mad, make me upset. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I've said before, the only thing in life you have absolute control over is your attitude. Anger, happiness, and sadness are all emotions that come and go out of your day, your week, your month, or whatever. But you only choose the attitude you're going to have. And I'm not going to let a bad boss steal from me the passion and the love I have in my heart for something as incredible as being a firefighter. I'm never going to let that happen again. Don't get me wrong. I might get pissed off for a second, but then I'm going to remind myself, look, it ain't about that guy. It's about me and how I feel about what I'm doing and the satisfaction I get of serving other people. I mean, and I think that's the best way to fight your way through. Yeah, exactly.
Pride in yourself. And you know what I used to tell people, too, is if you're having a bad day or someone's getting the better of you, it's the bad boss or a bad associate, the best thing you can do is show, and it's tough, but you can just show them that it's bouncing off your shoulders and go about doing everything that is expected of you and being happy, because that'll drive them nuts. It'll drive them nuts if you can show them it's not fazing you.
When they can't get to you, right? First of all, isn't that what you tell your kids, right? With the bully, don't let them see that gets you upset. Then they'll turn on someone else because it's no longer fun. But life's way too short. You never know how the day is going to end. Here today, where it's our good buddy John Salko's birthday. It's also the anniversary, 11 years from Black Sunday, where that's Joey D and some great people, and very, very tragic and sad day. 2 different fires, that claimed lives in New York City firefighters that same day.
Right.
You never know how the day is going to end. Being a firefighter is such an incredible thing to do. Please don't let someone else steal that moment from you. I mean, if you have to go for a ride, Tommy, I did it's an article, it's a class I do, and it's all from an email kind of thing. That I still get these emails about what do I do about my firefighters that don't care? What do I do about my company officers that don't? What do I do about my chief? And I end up copying the paste the same thing, and I end up coming up time with a deal called Firehouse Survival. We do a good job training our people in written Mayday, right? We do a good job with that, but where we do a poor job, Tom, is I think we do a really poor job of training them on how to survive in the firehouse, how to deal with the bullies and the thugs and the crappy attitudes, the people that don't care, the people who are just there either for a paycheck or just there to carry the pager, just for the T-shirt kind of stuff. And I came up with accidentally is just the 3 P's. P as in Paul, is surviving in the firehouse. And if I can share that with you, I'd love to. The first P is passion. Well, the first P, Tom, is passion. Just like we're talking now, you never let anybody reach in your heart and steal that love for what you love to do. That passion. You don't let anyone, especially a mutt, reach into your heart and steal your passion. That's being weak. Another lesson I got from a very good friend of mine, a mentor, we mentioned him earlier, Chief Tom Freeman. I went through that. I hated the job. I was down. I was miserable. I didn't want to go to work because of a bad boss. And he called me a weakling, Tom. He says, "You're a weakling." And I go, "No, I'm not." He goes, "Yeah, you are. You letting that guy ruin your day in the firehouse?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, You don't ever let anybody do that to you. That's and it was just such an awakening that when you give up what you love to do, that's it. People who lack passion suck. I don't know how else to say it. Paul's doing me a drawing of that. People who lack passion suck. You can't be great at anything you don't love to do. You can't be. I won't even give you very good. I'll give you okay. You cannot be great or very good at anything you don't love to do. Passion is everything, and that's the short version. The second P is perseverance.
Hang on right there, Chief. I want to quote you. I love one of your quotes, and if I remember it, if I say it incorrectly, correct me, but it's all about passion. It's a leader with great passion and limited skills will always outperform. And you can insert the title firefighter here, but a leader with great passion and limited skills will always outperform a leader with great skills and no passion.
That's it. It's a bookmark. It's in both of our books and our program. A leader with great passion and few skills always, and it's even underlined our power, always outperforms a leader with great skills and no passion, right? You can teach people, the skill thing. I mean, think about it, but you can't, the passion, that's hard. I mean, some of them may grab it from seeing you and how you're into the job or whatever, but you can have all the skins on the walls. If your attitude sucks, you're like the energy sucker in the firehouse. Nobody wants to be around you. When you walk in, it just kind of ruins the whole. Some of these people don't even know they're doing it. I don't think they're even aware of it. But yeah, it's all about so that passion is everything. If people lack passion, suck. It just kind of whether it's how about school teachers? I'm very passionate about school teachers. They're our future builders, and I admire them, and they're just tremendous people. But which school teacher do you want your kid to be in the class with? The one that can't seem to get the grades in the computer on time, or the one who sends an email out of blue about your son or daughter, and not a copy and paste thing because they've added something specific about your child, about what a joy they are and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Or which doctor do you want to take care of your loved one? The one that has a crap. We can play this any way we want. It's all about passion.
Who do you want fixing your car?
Yeah, exactly. And then, like I said, it comes down to the second P is perseverance. You don't ever give up the fight. Don't ever give up the fight. Just don't become insubordinate. Meaning, don't ever compromise your principles. Don't ever compromise your integrity. Don't ever cave and give in. Once in a while, you've got to be able to stand up, and it takes courage to do this, to do what's right, especially in the face of those that are doing what's wrong or working against that positive circle. And the last P is the patience we talked about, Tommy. It is. It's sometimes guys will go, well, that's easy to say, but how do I keep my sanity? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you this. Misery loves company. So if you want to hang with misery, go ahead. If not, find people who love the job like you do, and they may not even do it your company. You know what I'm saying? It may be with your neighboring department, a neighboring valley company, a neighboring whatever. Find people, find these guys and gals that love the job like you, and hang with them. Talk to them. Get fired up about the job, and pretty soon that person, they're going to retire, die, win the lottery, whatever. And you'll be talking about them in the past tense. Remember when we had that guy here? So I think seriously, the best way you just don't give up what you love. It is especially being a firefighter. There are people that wish they could do it and can't, and there are people that are doing it that don't understand that it's something very special.
It sure is. I love that. The 3 Ps: passion, perseverance, and patience. And along with patience, what I like to tell the firefighter who is struggling because people above him, officers and chiefs above him, maybe don't share that passion, the pride, don't put into training what they should, I try to tell them, surround yourself with like-minded people, like people joining around the same time you are, or people that share your ideas, because you can start building your team. And I had great draft picks, I called it, as I was moving up the ranks as a lieutenant, a captain, and then my 15 years in the chief officer. I had great draft picks where I could get some officers that shared my values and my vision, and firefighters as well. They weren't all just officers, and you can accomplish a lot. I mean, a lot. We had stumbling blocks. Everybody does, but find people that think like you, that share that passion, and you've got to have the patience. You're not going to change, you're not going to change Rome overnight, or you're not going to make change immediately, but you'll get your turn, and eventually, if passion can breed passion, and eventually you might have an overwhelming force there that's going to just take over someday, or change is going to come for the positive.
Oh, absolutely. And again, everybody. I think people who are struggling. I think some people are trying to find that happy time or whatever, are just looking for the right person to kind of pull them out of that funk, or show them the door that leads into that room where it's like, God, they're having remember Bob Uecker? Man, they're having looks like they're going to have a good time in there. That whole, you joined for. I don't know. I think very few people join the fire service for anything other than really to help people. I think some people, they do it for a job or because their neighbor, they see them go on calls all the time. They think it'd be cool. The first time you get in there, someone's kid looks up at you and says, "I want my mommy." You know why you're doing it. You know what I'm saying? That first time that person comes and gives you a hug because you saved, their belongings. You know why you're doing it. I think there's very, very few people out of the thousands of fire departments in North America that really truly don't care. I think there's a couple, but I think the majority truly do. It's the key to the happiness part of it. I think is just finding people. I've said it before. Some of the friends I run with, like yourself and John Sulka, Bobby Halton, and Mike Dugan, and all of the Eddie Buchanans, the list goes on. I love hanging with them, Tom, because they love the job so much you can't help but admire them, and that you can just draft off that energy.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's change gears a little bit here, because we've addressed the officer or say the firefighter looking to get recharged, refocused, re-energized. Let's put the chiefs on the spot now. Let's put the new chief of department on the spot, or even a veteran chief that's listening tonight that's just not getting the results. I love one of my heroes, and I listened to his podcast and read his book on leadership, Jocko Willink, the Navy SEAL. He says quite clearly the Navy SEAL mantra, there's no bad soldiers, there's just bad officers. So let's put the chiefs on the spot. If you're not getting the results you want, take a step back, look in the mirror. What can you do different? Or, Chief Lasky, what's your advice to someone that just maybe got elected or appointed fire chief and took over January 1st? What can they do to maybe right their ship or to get things going in the right direction in their department?
Well, I think the first thing would be is, number one, make sure your ego remains in check. I think a lot of people have a hard time once they change that front piece or that helmet or those collar pins. They think that they have to become that over-the-top kind of, and you don't have to. Do you have to change? Absolutely. You cannot be the same person when you promote up. It just doesn't work. You're not, that kind of, the higher up you go, the more you have to change. I don't mean in a bad way, but you can't do the same stuff you did when you were a firefighter. But as that newly elected chief or chief officer, number one, I'm hoping that you already know that there's no do-overs in the fire service, that this is serious stuff. And again, I don't care how busy, how slow, you drop your guard one time at a fire, at an accident scene or whatever, and you could be dead or hurt or crippled just like anybody else. It doesn't matter how big, how small, that this is serious stuff. And I guess my first bit of advice would be, it's always about your people. If you're the boss, the big boss, if you're the chief, you just got elected or appointed as chief, you just got elected as one of the chief officers, it is always about your people first, number one. Be dialed in with them. They come first with your thoughts, your policies, your everything you're doing. They come first, and that means you have to get there early. If it means you have to stay there late, it's kind of the parallels between, the probie and that great boss. They're the first ones up or the first ones there for the drill night or for the meetings, and the last ones to leave. And everybody else falls in between somewhere. But number one, it's about your people. Number two, constantly try to figure out ways to stay sharp, to stay connected, to stay into it, whether it's classes you go to, videos you're watching, books or magazine articles you're reading. Stay dialed in. You said it before, there are people out there that get to a point that think, well, now I've got 20 years, I don't have to train or I have to do nothing, and they need to just go away because they're just a danger to all of them around them. Everybody everybody learns. I learn something. You do. Every single day we learn something about the job. I think one of the other things that we need to remind new officers, new chiefs about is ask people. Ask people for advice. Ask them for their thoughts. Neighboring guys that have been doing it for a while. You pick up the phone. You said before, pick up the phone, call Tom Merrill. Hey, I'm getting ready to, next month I'm getting ready to move up, to the big seat. I've been doing this. I think I'm down with this. What advice do you have? And give me some of those means where I can sidestep some of the landmines and all that. And it goes back to, number one, your people come first. Number two, stay connected. And that's training and everything else. And I think the last part is out of it is, you got elected, appointed, or put in that position for a reason. Make stuff happen. Make things happen. Do something. Whether it's tune something up in the department, reach for another program to make your department a little bit better. Fix. You know what I'm saying? You just can't sit back and hope that things are going to happen. Figure out ways to dial things. Create that relationship with your city or town council or county or whatever your setup is. There's a lot. There's a lot of politics that come into play there, and sometimes those that know how to work those politics, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean in a good way, end up achieving a whole lot for their department. But I think you tie those things together. That whole being a person that has values, being a person of integrity and honor, I think you're on your way to doing good things for your department.
Yeah, and one thing that that I like to say all the time is that keeping a department where it's at, when you take over as a chief, your department's at a certain level, and it's probably at a pretty good level because it's, taken years to get there. And keeping it at the level it's at, that's hard enough work as it is, keeping everything moving and flowing smoothly and operating proficiently. Truly moving forward and progressing, like you just said, that takes work. And that's why you're elected. That's why you wanted the position. That's why you said, I want to lead as a chief officer. It takes work. Why get in there and just put it on autopilot? You need to stay sharp and focused and truly driven to moving your department forward, because if you don't, you're just spinning the wheels.
Well, and grooming and mentoring people, right, Tom? Getting those people, getting your officers behind you, your teammates, and on your command staff or whatever, getting everybody kind of more and more into the job and preparing them for the next level. And, I've said it before, the only people that are paranoid about doing their jobs are the people that aren't doing their jobs. So as long as you do your job, don't worry about them behind you, all right? You know what? They're going to just... Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I love one of your best expressions, too, about the egos eating brains, because that's another one that you get the gold badge, and all of a sudden you feel like you're supposed to know it all. You don't have to. I remember when I became chief, one of the first things I did is went to some of my senior firefighters, guys and gals that were maybe even chiefs before me, and said, hey, I'm going to rely on you still. I'm going to pick your brain, or if there's a big fire, hey, I may be looking at you to say, hey, come here a second, because you don't have to know it all. I think what Ronald Reagan used to say, he surrounded himself with great people. And like him or not,
right.
He's still considered a pretty darn good president, but he had good people around him, but he used those people. He put his ego aside. He wasn't afraid to ask for help and guidance and leadership. I think that's huge.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I just think some of the best things you can do sometimes is turn to your partners and go, okay, what do you think? All right, who's got an idea? Let's run with this. Let's, just the whole kind of empowerment, the trust you put in people, the ownership you instill that allows everybody to have a say, and then you make people aware, that hey guys, we got a great project coming out. Assistant Chief Jones came up with this idea. Last month we were able to get some finances behind it. We're going to run. This is a great idea, and who doesn't want to hear something good about themselves when they come up with a good idea? And we're all running around looking for pats on the back, but you know what I'm saying? It's
right.
Taking care of your people and utilizing everybody's skills and abilities. That's another thing as a chief that I didn't mention before. If you're taking care of your people, you're understanding your people and you're getting to know your people, and you're getting to really truly grasp all their hidden talents, right? Whether they're plumbers, electricians, school teachers, landscapers, roofers, whatever. God, I mean, look at a fire department, especially volunteer fire department. You've got everything. You've got financial advisors. You've got lawyers. You have counselors. You have school teachers, landscapers. You've got police officers. You got dispatch. You have I mean, you talk about like a millwright at a factory where they could do every job. Look at the resources you have. And the people, and I think so many bosses forget to tap those resources, forget to, embrace that. Go, hey, Sandy, come here. I need you to take this and run this for me. I need you, using your people to. It goes back to the empowerment thing, but using the folks you have around to the best of their abilities can be quite rewarding.
Yeah, and at the same time, respect your people, right? I mean, a leader wants to be respected. Well, you give respect to earn respect, and I think one of the things we can tell officers, Brunacini was the king of it. Respect and be nice to your people. Yeah, establish expectations. Let them know what you're expecting as a firefighter and as an officer. But you can do it with respect and understand, like you said, get to know your people. Not everyone is the sharpest tack in the room with every single talent that you may be expecting, but you can certainly learn who's good at what. Use them especially in the volunteer ranks. Certain people are better at certain things, and you need to tap into that and be aware of that and know that and not belittle them if they have a weakness somewhere else. But everyone has a spot in the volunteer fire service.
Well, and here, let me just go off of that a little bit here, too. And I think this is just tragic, and it bothers me. But, Tom, I've been to places where, let's say you get to a point where you got a volunteer that's been with you a long time, and he or she can no longer be an interior firefighter. And they almost cast them out or cast them aside. I mean, I'm like, it's heartbreaking. I'll call it criminal. It's so wrong. Everybody has something to offer. Heck, there's people that are not good on ladders because they don't like heights. There's people that don't like. You know what? Everybody has something they can do in a way they can contribute. And I know so many of the, like what you call them, exterior firefighters that could do that, or they drive, or they take care of things, or maybe they're just getting up there in years that, you know what, I can't do that, but they come in, they take care of the firehouse, they help run the meetings, you know what I'm saying? When change quarters companies come in during fires, they show them where to go or where they're going. I mean, God, there's so many talented people out there. And on the other side of that, don't forget to recognize them. Don't forget, I think sometimes we let people move on, Tom, after serving with us for so many years, and then we forget about them. And I think that's truly a shame that we have these people that come to work in our fire department for so long, and this is not like a job you're walking away from going, I can't wait to get out of here, and you never look back. This is something that, God, I volunteered there all these years, and then you show up there a year later or 2 years later, and some of the new folks there treat you like maybe you're a stranger, like you never existed. That's just heartbreaking. We need to, figure out ways to recognize those former members and treat them with the honor and respect they deserve, because everybody will be there one day. So like I said, on the other hand, we got that experience, but let's not forget about them later on, when they move on too.
Yeah, create a firehouse environment that has pathways and ways to other titles and things where you can still serve the organization, but just in a different role. And yeah, I think that's an important part of the professional operation. Again, you cast people aside just because maybe they had a medical issue where they can't be inside fighting fire anymore, or like you said, they're getting up in years and they don't want to be dragging hosing anymore because they're 65 years old. But my gosh, there's still so much value to keeping them involved and around and tapping into their knowledge and expertise in certain areas. And I mean, I can think back to many of the senior members who are no longer with us, but who are still, because we have that ability in our department to go, we call it non-structural, where you can say, I don't want to be an interior firefighter anymore, or medically you're deemed not interior, but hey, you know what, we still got a role for you. And I think most good professional departments and the volunteer side are doing that and are aware of that, yes, we can't cast these people aside.
Well, I think, let me just bring this up real quick, Tom, if I could.
Yeah.
I think we may have talked about this once before when you and I were together on a radio show. I think, I'll be honest with you, you know, we talk about recruitment and retention issues all the time. I think one of the greatest challenges we have with recruitment and retention, and actually with staying alive, if you will, with our city councils and town councils, is our own people. And what I mean by that is, you know, I talked about that 25-year guy that used to beat me up to the firehouse for the gas leak at 2 in the morning, and I mentioned that about picking and choosing your calls. And let me, if I could tell a story, I was in great state of Maryland, great state, a lot of great volunteer departments there as well. And I was having coffee time in the afternoon. I was doing an evening pride and ownership program for all the departments of the county, and I have a coffee at the firehouse, and it's about 2 o'clock, almost on the button. They blow the siren, set the pagers off for a gas leak call. And I watched 2 guys come in. You know, they put their gear on, and they set the tones off again a few minutes later. And the guys have the engine running on the apron. You know, they're standing there. Their lights are going. They're looking. They're waiting for someone else. And after the third tone out, they just, all right, I guess it's just us. So they take off, and they go. And about 2:40-ish, about 40 minutes later, they blow the siren, set the pagers off for a structure fire. And I swear to God, you need a valet parking in the parking lot. I kept hearing the door, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, where did all these people come from? And I asked a few later, I said, where were you for the early call? And it was like, well, I didn't hear it, or I just got home. And I wanted to say, no, you're just choosing your calls. You know what I'm saying? And if we don't want people to say negative things about our capabilities as a volunteer fire service, some of that's in our own hands as to how many times, you know what I'm saying? I know there's just bad times during the day for people, you know, whatever, wherever you're at. But sometimes, I mean, if you decide not to go to that call because it's not exciting, and they have to tone out 2-3 times, or they have to call someone from a neighboring community to come in, you're just as bad, you know, as the people you think that don't care about you. You know what I'm saying? I think so many of us are in control of that. If you would just make the calls, Yeah. You know, just make the calls and take the wind out of their sails when somebody says, "Well, see, you know, well, see what? You know, we've got people who are available. They just made a conscious decision not to show up because it wasn't like the structure fire." And I just, you know, right. I saw that. I'm like, God, we're hurting ourselves, guys. We're hurting ourselves by like picking and choosing our calls. When I was a volunteer firefighter, Barney Sadowski was the first chief, and he was the retired district chief from Chicago, and all this, and he gave me this old like Plectron thing, not the ones with the red lights on. It just had like you plug it in, and it had a little whip antenna on. And he says, look, if this thing goes off or they blow that siren, it either means it's drill night, it's test night, or we have a call. Tell you what, if you're available, just come up to the firehouse all 3 times. And I laugh about it now, but it was like, he didn't tell me, if it goes off, if it doesn't sound exciting, don't worry about, don't worry about coming up here. He never said that. And I think sometimes we're our own worst enemies when it comes to, you know, what we're showing our, you know, the powers that city hall or town hall, you know, that we can be reliable. We're in control of a lot of that. Show up for the calls, you know.
And that kind of segued nicely into a point I want to make about one of my takes on being an officer, too. When I talk to new people coming up about and they ask advice on what they can be doing better as an officer, I call it consistency. And what I mean by that, especially in the officer ranks, when you become an officer, in addition to responding to calls and maybe taking care of a crew at a call, you're going to be delegated certain assignments that are important to the operation. You might be in charge of checking SCBA. You might be in charge of checking EMS supplies. You might be in charge of your fire prevention programs. But you get the idea. You're going to be in charge of different things that keep the operation humming along. Yeah. And as a new officer, you might be fired up about that. You might be passionate about it and put the time in. And every week you're checking the SCBA, or every fire prevention season you're really running a good program and being on top of things. But it takes work, and it takes continuity and consistency. And a good officer will continue to stay focused and do the job required in a consistent manner. What happens sometimes, they get bored with it. They start taking shortcuts. And before you know it, they might not even be doing it. And in some cases, it's just a bad public relations image because you're not returning phone calls from the people wanting fire prevention programs. But in other cases, it could be a real serious matter because now you have an SCBA that wasn't checked and has a problem. And so I like to tell officers, yeah, it's going to calls and maybe having a different color helmet or whatever, but you got to be consistent in what and jobs will get delegated to you. Chief, do you know any officer that hasn't had jobs delegated to them? You might not like it, but you still have to do it in a consistent manner.
Exactly, and it's like the good engineers, the good driver operators for the volunteer departments, because more than ever, it's one thing at a paid place where every day they show up and they check the rig. If you're waiting for drill night to check, I know guys. Oh my God, I know guys. I used to do it. If I was driving, I used to drive my wife. If I was driving home, Tom, past the firehouse, if I had time, I'd pull in, and I got to the point where I could get in there. And I jump up there, make sure that no one get in there and turn the coercer. I want to make sure the batteries, it was good, right, that it wasn't dead. Mm-hmm. Make sure the compartments are closed, because sometimes guys go look at compartments or whatever. Make sure it's closed. The rigs, you know what I'm saying? Not do a full check, but I don't want to run up there and go to start the rig and don't start, or get there. And if I'm going to wait for like Tuesday night or Thursday night to do it, I know some people that's all they can do. I understand that, guys, but if I had the extra time, I always made a point. I always I'm gonna stop by, check my rig. Look at the hose, look at the stuff, make sure everything's dialed in, make sure that everything's ready to go. I'm not gonna lose my water when I pull out. I used to do that so much. And the guys like me, my buddies, that we're all like, we all did it. We all kind of, sometimes you could do that. It took you all 10 minutes. It took you longer to get in and get out of the firehouse than it did to do a quick once-over on your rig, just to take a look and make sure it's ready to go, right? And that's just as a driver, little like you said, as an officer, be that lieutenant or captain. Just don't change your front piece. Be that one that says, okay, you know what, I'm going to take on a project here, and I'm going to grab, Cynthia and Thomas, two of these younger firefighters, and we're going to rebuild this, or we're going to paint that, or we're going to do this, or we're going to build a training prop, or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And now it's not just you. You got these younger guys and gals that are right behind you. You know what I'm saying? And all of a sudden now they're going to be that kind of person one day too. You're creating more go-to people by doing that.
Yeah, and that goes into, again, what I tell people is now, so you're up there doing these jobs, but you're, again, not looking for a lot of hoopla. Quiet professionalism. You're doing the jobs that are expected of you as an officer, as a leader, day in and day out, week in and week out, whatever the case might be, in a consistent manner, and it just makes the organization stronger, because whatever you're in charge of is being taken care of, and some of it might impact the public's image of your department because you're interacting with them, calling people back. Nothing worse. Think about I tell this in my class when I talk about, I have a picture of one of the phones in our firehouse, and it has one of those red message lights, meaning somebody left a message. So we have different departments. You have your board of directors in a volunteer firehouse. You might have a firematic line. You might have an administrative line. Well, in this particular case, there's a red light for what we call our fire prevention program line. And when people call, they can be directed by pushing a button, a number on the phone for the fire prevention program. So one day I walk in there, and there's a red light on there, and I play the message back. This is long after I got out as chief. But I see it, and I hear that there's a message for a fire prevention officer to schedule a tour. Okay, and there's a way to save that message and keep the red light on there, so I do. And a couple of weeks go by, and I see the red light still on there, and a month goes by, and I see the red lights on there. So finally I had to say something to the fire prevention officer, and bottom line is he was getting a little tired of running these programs, so he wasn't doing the job he was supposed to be. And I said, but think of the person who's waiting for the phone call back. Even if you couldn't do the program for one reason or another, don't you think you can at least call? Well, I guess so. Well, okay, think of you now. If you call a business and whoever you need to talk to isn't there, so you leave a message, and that business doesn't call you back, are you mad? Well, yeah. Well, that's how this person feels about our fire department right now. Long story, but I think it's a true, it's a good point, I think, in doing a job consistently, whatever it might be.
Well, exactly, and again, you can either lead by that example and set the tone for other people to follow, because you said something early on in the show, Tom, that people they're watching you, and oh my God, they are. Everybody's watching you. And I don't mean this necessarily in a bad way, but the young guys or gals are watching you. They're like, okay, that's the lieutenant, that's the captain, or whatever, that's the chief, and everybody, and your best buddies watching you, how you're taking care of business, what you're doing. And again, it's not an ego thing. I mean, everybody's got an ego. Don't get me wrong. It's not an ego thing as much as it is. Yeah, I guess this is it. We all like the company logos and that. Who wants the T-shirt that says "We suck less"? Who wants to be with the buffoon? Right? I like to appeal to that competitiveness sometimes, the competitiveness of the firefighter. Not in the stupid way where we do silly things. I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that my guys want to get water quicker on the fire than maybe the next due engine. And they do that not by being idiots. They do that by training. They do that by busting their ass and pulling hose and doing stuff. It's that, again, it's the only way we can be better than anyone else or to outdo anybody else is to be better than where we're at now, us, to be better than ourselves. And we do that by preparing and by training and figuring it out. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's a hard thing for people to accept as an officer, but you're so right. And I remember, if it's in your book or I've heard you say, and it's so true, just as an officer, you're going to be watched and you're going to be judged. It comes with the territory. You get the gold badge, you get the lieutenant bar, you get the captain speaking trumpets. You're going to be watched. And how do you want your reputation to be? I mean, some people are okay being a slug, I guess, but to me, the good officer wants to be thought of as, doing the right thing and being that quiet professional and doing what needs to be done. But just understand, you're gonna be watched.
Oh, seriously, they're gonna watch you. They're gonna evaluate you. And I've said it before. Your best buddy is watching you on how you're conducting things and how you're doing things. And we've said it before. You could tell when we walk into your department that you guys are dialed in. We can also tell, right, when we walk into another department when or not. As soon as you walk in, you could tell it's Camp Run Amok. Where they just, it's like, oh my God, look at this place. Look at their rigs. The rigs are filthy. The floors are filthy. Their gear racks look like they don't even take care of their turnout gear, and the office and the garbage can. You look around, you go, I couldn't do this. I don't even work here, and I don't want to. I can't put up with it. Let alone, God, if this is my department, what does that say? Again, back to that commitment and that selflessness and that what you've done, that commitment you made to the people out there, because that's what that's what it all comes down to, right? It's all about those people out there that expect when they call us that we can't show up and be the best for them unless we're the best back in the firehouse, unless we're the best.
And I've said many times many times I've said, when people call, that's my paid job. I'm a fire dispatcher. When people call for help, they don't say send the paid fire department. They don't say send the volunteer fire department. They say send the fire department. That's all and they're looking for good, competent help. Paid or volunteer does not matter to the person needing that help.
Oh, they don't care what color the rigs are. You're right. They don't. None of that stuff matters. They don't care about any of that. They want you to come and make their bad time go away. They want you. Right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Mutual aid. They don't care if the rigs are red, yellow, blue, purple. It doesn't matter. They want the fire department to show up. They called us, and I'll be honest with you. I truly think that the volunteer fire service is truly alive and well. I think there are some, Tom, that might be struggling with some recruitment retention issues, and I know we haven't mentioned yet. I think you were going to, but you've got organizations. I get it, and hopefully people are reaching out to you like they should be. I know I refer people to you all the time. I'll get people to hit me up on Facebook, Tom, or with emails. They'll say, Chief, is there a good resource for recruitment retention of volunteer fire service? I'm a newly appointed volunteer fire chief, and I'm like, yeah, your organization, NationalVolunteerFireCouncil.org. National Volunteer Fire Council. They'll give you money. They give money
resource.
to. oh my God, right? They'll give you money to help you recruit volunteer firefighters, and they've got all kinds of resources on their website to help you, recruitment and retention. And I think that's the first step. Is there's resources out there for you. There's an organization you should belong to, just like if you're a chief, the International Association of Fire Chiefs. But there's an organization, knowing that they have you, they can reach out to come out and teach a program for them, or come out and get their guys fired up, or just come out like our buddy John Salka does. And he goes and he helps the volunteer departments with their policies and just different things, because I think we forget too. I think I know the public forgets it, but I think a lot of people forget in our own industry that there's volunteer firefighters out there that work at 2 jobs trying to put food on the table and money into a college fund, and they're still trying to make drill night and meeting night and make those calls and dance around their they're trying to make their daughters their son their recital, their soccer game, and their hockey game and everything else.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That again, it goes back. It takes someone very special. And so many of these fire departments, a lot of their budgets rely on fundraisers that they do every year, whether that's a fish fry or like here, the West Wichita Volunteer Fire Department, great volunteer fire department next to us, they have a huge craft show every year. That's like their big money maker. And whether it's bingo or whatever, up in where my dad's at Wisconsin, all the different volunteer departments support each other. It's like the money, it's like that dollar bill just goes from one department to the other, because everybody supports each other's events. When they've got something going on, you go there and you spend money, and then they come in, and it just the way to step up and understand that. I've said it before. I think career officers have it made when it comes to how they have to handle people, because they could just say, "Look, Tom, I'm sorry, I'm going to write you up, and if you don't like it, I'm suspend you." On the volunteer fire service side, we've got people who are coming in most cases for absolutely nothing. And I'm not saying you give away the store. I'm not saying you allow it to be Camp Run-Amok, like I said before, but there's a whole different finesse you have to use, right? With dealing with folks that are volunteering their time. You don't want to run them off. You want to run the department, and you want things to go right, but, it's a difficult line you got to walk, to go, okay, just how much pressure can I put on somebody? And then you realize, there's a lot of older chiefs that have forgotten, like I said, what it's like to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, knowing you got to go to your real job at 2, and just truly understand. We were all there once. A little empathy that I remember what it was like to be a young volunteer. I remember what it was like to be the excited, crazy, nutty one that just. I was at the firehouse all the time, and I remember what it was like to be the one that had kids, and you're going out to this event, and the pager goes off, and you can't go to the call, you know what I'm saying, or whatever. And the last thing you want to hear is some chief jumping on you later. You know what I'm saying, and now you're squashing that enthusiasm.
And what
remember
you're
where you came from.
Absolutely. What you're talking about there is the next thing I want to talk about, and that's I like to say make it a firehouse. Before I do that, I just want to remind everyone again, this is Fire Engineering Blog Talk Radio. The Professional Volunteer Fire Department is the episode this evening. Please, if you have anything to ask Chief Lasky, give us a call at 760-454-8852. We would love to hear from you. And, Chief, I am so honored to have you on tonight. I've got so many more questions. I hope you're doing okay on time. If you ever need to cut me short, you feel free. Cut me short.
I'm here for you, buddy.
I appreciate that, but you brought up a great point about, I agree with you. The volunteer fire service, yes, it's struggling in some areas and in some, not just areas of the country, but in areas of operation. But by and large, there's so many good volunteer departments out there doing great things. And yes, we have to change with the times. The old way of doing things doesn't always work. Chief Goldfeather says it all the time. We can't operate our volunteer fire departments the way we were in the 40s, 50s, and certainly not even the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Times change. Good people adopt and make changes. I like to remind people that in a lot of cases, volunteer fire departments survived now for over 100 years, 2 world wars. Heck, they survived the Great Depression. They survived countless economic downturns. They've survived, like I said, the world wars, especially World War II, when in my own department, all the men were gone of that prime firefighting age of 18 into the 40s. They were gone. somehow we survived, and we weren't embracing female firefighters back then, or other types of people that could certainly fill the ranks like we are today, because diversity is a great thing in the volunteer fire service. So we need to change. We need to be open to changes. But we also need to make our fire departments, what I like to say, a firehouse. Think of your own home, warm, welcoming, a friendly environment, a comfortable environment. The last thing we would want is firefighters not going up to the firehouse. And I know there are volunteer fire departments out there that sometimes shun their members being there when there's not an emergency going on. I hope that's not many, but I've heard stories that there are departments out there. I loved when my young firefighters or any firefighters were hanging out at the firehouse having a good time. But you got to create a warm, welcoming environment and make your fire station or fire hall, a lot of places call them in our area, a true firehouse, warm, welcoming, and non-tolerant of bullying, harassment. It's just not even, I can't believe some of the stories we've read the last few years with bullying and harassment. But what can we do as good firefighters and good professional firefighters to create that warm, welcoming, non-bullying environment in our firehouses and make it a place people want to be?
Well, I think, first of all, I think, we kind of mentioned before, you have to have the courage to step up and do what's right. And being a person of integrity, being a person who has honor, being a person that, has values, those core values, I'm not going to say it's a struggle, but it's a fight, because there are people, Tom, out there that are constantly tugging at your shirt sleeves, wanting you to do the wrong thing, whether it's how you treat someone or something you do that's wrong or whatever. And it takes truly courageous people to be a person that has those values in their life. I think the harder you fight to have them, the easier the fight gets. If that makes sense, where once it becomes part of your life. So that means, number one, stepping up to someone. If you see someone harassing a firefighter, if you you said it, I was sitting there going, God, I can't. When you said it, I'm like, I can remember being in places where people looked at you and said, "What? Don't you have a life? You're always up here at the fire hall. Is that you don't have a life?" I'm like, "We have a life, but I love this, man. Why? You get these miserable people out there. They just want to drag you down into their dungeon of misery. You know what? Sometimes it takes you get a senior firefighter officer to go, "Hey, come here. Hey, Fabrizio, knock that crap off. Come over here for a second." You get them on their say, "Look, you know what? I don't care if you're not happy here. Don't do that. Don't, I think it takes. It's like when you see the commercials on TV, Tom, where you see one kid stand up to another one who's being bullied in school, and they tell you, it only takes one. It only takes one to stop stuff like that. It also only takes one to ruin the reputation of your entire fire department. If you have people doing stuff that are wrong, if you have people, not just harassment, but you have people who are doing something that's wrong, they could throw 30 years of CPR classes can be out the door, out the window in a heartbeat because of one idiot. And I did a blog. I'm getting ready to repost it again, called dealing with the shrapnel wounds of other people's decisions. It's usually not the initial explosion that does much damage. It's, oh my God, now I got to go talk to the mayor. Now I got to go talk to these people. Now I got to talk to the media because of one idiot who let their ego get out of control or just did something. I'll just say it's stupid. And it just ruined things for us. So I think having those kind of people that are willing to step up to people to prevent that from happening. There's very few surprises. I'll say that in the firehouse, right? We know that you saw what was going on. You saw it. You knew how he or she was treating them. You knew what was going on, and you made a conscious decision to not step in there and stop it. You made a conscious decision, and personally, I think a lot of that. Does it mean that there's not some loud coaching once in a while? That that sometimes you need to sit down with someone who's constantly on output and remind that this new firefighter, they have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Do the math. I'm not saying that, but the days of the bullying and the thuggery stuff needs to be. We need more mentors than ever before. We need more good people to step up. But it takes good bosses. It takes a fire chief. There you go. There's a question. As a new fire chief, what do? you know what? You tell your staff, you tell people, look, you know what? As long as I'm here on my watch, you know what? We're going to take care of business. We're going to be the best fire department, anywhere around here. We want to be the ones they all talk about. We want to be the fire department that everyone else says, why can't we be like them? We want to be like we want to be that. We want to be that example of how to do it right. And we're not going to do that by doing stupid things. We're not going to do that by doing this or doing that or whatever, and so forth. If you're out partying, you stay home. You don't come to the firehouse. If you're going to come here and you're going to push people around, you're going to be out on your ass because we're not going to put up with that. If you're going to, you know what I'm saying? We need people who are dedicated. We want people that are, and as a boss, you got to be willing to step up and say that. But I think number one, like I said, the biggest thing is just to say, look, have the courage to be a good person. And I know it sounds kind of goofy, but have the courage to stand up for what's right in life. Anybody can roll over. Anybody can join the sheep, as you will. Don't be one of the sheep. All right, be one of the leaders. Be one of the people. I'm telling you, young people are going to look up to you and say, "I want to be like that." Young people, all of a sudden, you'll see. And those other people will be the few and far between, and eventually they'll go away.
Yeah, and and speaking of young people, this subject comes up quite a bit, and I wish Chief Salka was with us tonight because I think he tells a great story about how he would watch these young firefighters come into the firehouse with their ripped up jeans and crazy T-shirts, I love that story. And he would just shake his head, and they would go upstairs and come down ready for duty, and they transformed into the model FDNY firefighter. But that being said, people, all this new generation, all these millennials, all the people we're getting today, we can't make them firefighters. They don't know a Phillips head screwdriver from a flathead screwdriver. Whoa, wait a minute. Wait. This gets back to the mentoring again. This gets back to the role of the senior firefighter. This gets to the role of the officer. This gets to the role of the leader. And remember, a leader doesn't necessarily mean it's an officer. Anyone can be a leader. I say in my class, a 6-month member can be a leader to the new probie that comes in the door to help them get acclimated to what they know already. But we can still take today's new firefighter and mold them and make them what we want and get them to understand what's expected of firefighters.
Oh, absolutely. You hit the nail on the head again with everybody's a leader, and the 6-month probie is going to turn around and be welcoming in a probie that's coming in behind them, right? I mean, it's the great circle of life, Simba from the Lion King. I mean, it's like it's this never-ending circle. But when you get some good guys and gals, I think you and I talked about this before when it comes to recruitment and retention. I told someone once, I said, there's some great programs out there. There's some great things you can do, but just putting a blinking sign in front of the fire hall sometimes doesn't make it. Sometimes you got to go out. You got to go to your churches. You got to go to the American Legion, the VFWs, and because a lot of people there either will volunteer for you or they have relatives that will. You got to go to churches. You got to get a juniors program going or Explorer program or reach into the high schools and start getting people ready for all this. And then I really think one of the other ways to do it, Tom, is, pick out 4 or 5 of your all-stars. I think you've heard me say it. We've talked about this before. Pick 4 or 5 of your all-stars off your roster. And you say, hey, come here. All right, Tammy, John, Frank, Cindy, come here. Look, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to find me one more like you. You could do it as a group or individually. Whether it's a relative, a neighbor, someone from your church, someone from your scout group or whatever. Find me one more just one more like you. Don't find me 20. Find me one more like you. And if your all-stars can find you every now and then one more like them, think of the nucleus you're building, and you know what I'm saying? It's like, haven't you looked at a firefighter time? How many times you look and go, oh, God, I wish I had 5 more of them. Well, go ask them. Go ask them. Say, hey, find me one more like you. Do you have a neighbor that whatever? Find me one more like you. And sometimes you end up, grabbing, these gold nuggets here and there. And all of a sudden, before you know it, 4 or 5 down the road, 4 or 5 years down the road, you got this nucleus of folks that are really busting their ass for you and doing a great job.
And if that one more is like you, and you're one of those persons that's maybe having poor leadership above you or things aren't going away, now you've got more people like you that as you move up, you can start shaping the future of your department and making those subtle changes that you really want to make. And you know what else works? You know what else works? Yeah, like you said, not the blinking light all the time, just putting a sign up with a sticky letter saying we need members, exemplifying yourself out in public as someone who loves being a firefighter, but treating people nicely, talking about the great experiences of the fire department, the camaraderie, the second family. You know, we talked about making it a firehouse. A firehouse is warm and welcoming. It's full of family. Talk about that family. And when you're out in the public, if you're at your child's baseball game, soccer game, dance recital, you're out at church talking about it, or you see a fellow firefighter and people see how you get along so well, talking about the fun you had at the baseball game, the fire department baseball game the night before, talking about really doing a good job at a recent call and maybe helping someone out with a flooded basement or a problem with their electrical box or whatever the case may be. Other people might notice that and say, I want to be part of that. That looks like something that I would really enjoy being part of. I could use a second family.
Exactly, and or they feel. Here's the other thing, Tom. Maybe there's a lot of people that are just missing something in life, something they can wrap their arms around. You know, I mean, some of them get involved with, like I'm a Mason. They get involved with their local Masonic lodge, and they do things, or Kiwanis, or Lions, or Rotary, or whatever, to do something for the community, or Little League, and all that. Well, you know what? Here's something you can really wrap. Here's something that really pays it forward when it comes to taking care of people in the community. This, I mean, snowing, like you said, you get the, oh my God, just not regular snow. Let's get the lake effect you guys get there all the time. Snowing, freezing, raining, so, it doesn't matter. 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, you know, to be there for people when they need you. Oh my God, what a satisfying. What a satisfying position. And here's one more way to recruit too. I think a lot of departments really take for granted what a Citizens Fire Academy could do for you. You know, whether you do it just, some places could just pull off doing like a month. They do 4 Saturdays in a row, or they do, you know, they do a month. They do 4 Thursday nights and 4 like Saturday mornings, you know, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And you get maybe 10 or 15 people that go through it, or however many. There's almost always 1 or 2 people that go, you know what? So what does it take to be a volunteer? And you go, well, this is what it takes. Look, you've been through a lot of, you know, and I think that's another recruitment tool we fail sometimes to, you know, glom onto is conducting those Citizens Fire Academies and creating, like you say, create that interest, create that, you know, I see these firefighters and, God, it's like another family. Look at that. Their kids are there. They, you know, you come by there and they're doing this, they're doing that. There's other, you know, and I'll tell you, most towns, most cities, America, you know, the heartland of America, how many places, that's like the big focal point in town. What's going on this weekend? Well, we got the Firefighters Carnival. We got the Firefighters Fish Fry. We got the Firefighters Ball, the Firefighters Dance. We've got, you know, the firefighters, the trunk or treat. They're doing trick or treat for the kids at the firehouse. They got Santa Claus. They're helping bring Santa Claus around the neighborhoods. They're doing this. They're doing a food drive. You know, there's just this constant barrage of, wow, what are the firefighters doing next? And again, you get those people go, you know, I want to be part of it. I want to be part of something special. There you go. There's a sign for you. But you want to be part of special? Come see us. Be a volunteer firefighter. You know.
Nothing makes me feel better than when I'm on summer vacation and driving around New York State, and I go up to the Adirondack Mountains and I just see passing volunteer firehouse after volunteer firehouse, and they're having their field days and picnics and carnivals, and it's just great to see. It's great to see, and it's very important for them too. And I know it takes a lot of work, a lot of sweat and dedication, but it's also a great family time for them. So many families working together to do it, and then they go to their neighbor carnival, their neighbor's picnic, and it's just a great tradition that, you know, seems to be alive and well, but is also just so important to the morale and good fabric in that fire company and in those fire companies. And Another challenge that comes up, Chief, that people, again, new year, new officers, new chiefs, or firefighters looking to reinvigorate their career in their volunteer firehouse. This gets thrown out quite a bit, and I can see it, and I've talked about it on other shows, but I'd like to get your take on it. And I'm sure you're going to say the similar things that we've heard before, but it's important to reinforce it, and it's training and drills. A lot of times I get people questioning, how do I get my people fired up for training? How do I get them fired up for drill? We had a drill last night, and nobody showed up, or only a few people showed up. And I'm finding a lot of common causes: poor organization, last-minute notifications, changing the topic at the last minute, and people not being well-versed on it, having people teach drill that maybe don't know the material, or worse yet, okay, you have a good idea to ask a senior member to help with the drill, but you maybe didn't give enough warning that they could brush up their skills. There are a lot of different reasons, but number one, Chief, so important for training, so important for everyone to train and drill. And number two, your ideas on how to make people fired up for training and want to be there for training.
Well, number one, you got to make it interesting. And you said this with no. Granted, there are just some drills, some topics you have to cover that may not be that exciting. But here's the thing: like I love teaching fire behavior building construction, and I love teaching it because one of my mentors, Chief Jack McCaslin, a decorated combat Vietnam vet Marine, could teach building construction fire behavior and have you sitting on the edge of your seat. And that's what I love doing. I want some people just can't. They're not comfortable with the topic or whatever. So number one, find a topic you're comfortable to teach. Use those people. When you've got the guy. I mean, there's so many people out there. You got a guy that works for the local towing outfit or whatever. What a great guy to have in heading up your extrication, drills and doing things like that, and using everybody's abilities. So make the drills interesting. Involve everybody. Involve different people. You kind of hit on things. Be prepared. Don't change the topics. If you have to change it, let's say, you had something planned outside, and the weather just sucks, or the house you were going to use for the wreck it, they had to wreck it during the week, and now you have nothing to go play in or whatever to work in. You have to have those drills always have something in your back pocket, something interesting. And here's one example that Sal Marchese, a good friend of mine who was with the FDNY for a long time, retired off a 142 truck in Queens, and we call it. Me and my buddy Curtis we call it the Sal drill for straight and level, but ahead of time, go find yourself a railroad tie. Get it from a landscaping crew or the railroad, railroad yards. They'll give you. Get one or two of those, or maybe a smaller steel beam or something you can manage, and keep it outside somewhere where it's not an eyesore. And when it's bad weather or drill fell through, whatever, you have the guys go drag that in, carry it into the apparatus bay or whatever. And if you've got, let's say most people have airbags for extrication. All right. If you've got airbags, you tell, okay, you three, go get the airbags, go get the cribbing, go get the wedges. They come back and go, okay, and you break them up in their teams. And it's, okay, team number one, it's your turn first. So here's what's going to happen. All right. You see this railroad tie laying here or this big beam? Right now, your patient, your victim is pinned underneath there. Their legs are pinned. All right. So as a team, you have to go get the airbags, you have to get the cribbing over there, you have to get the wedges, everything else, and you have to raise this beam or this railroad tie, whatever it is, 7 to 9 inches so we can remove your victim. And you pull your little tape measure out of your measuring stick, and you go, see, 7 to 9 inches. All right, and you get, don't start yet. You see this big Sonic plastic cup here, this big cup? All right, I'm going to fill it with water, not about 2/3 of the way up, all right? About 2/3, 3/4 of the way up. It's going to set it right in the middle of this beam or this railroad tie. And while you guys are raising as a team this beam, if you spill any water, you just crushed your patient's legs. And Tom, here's a drill you're talking about a railroad tie and airbags, and they don't even have to be in their gear. They're like, all right, and they're yelling, up the team. It's a team building, teamwork, and they're like yelling, raise, low, or up on green, and it's an amazing drill. That didn't take much, it was like a last second, kind of those things. It's a great team builder.
You made it fun.
You made it fun. If you're going to do the SCBA stuff or the RIT stuff, you know what? Don't build the torture chambers. Save those. Start off gradual and build your way up and build their confidence. Some guys come back from a conference and they put together this thing that's just ridiculous, and then guys get frustrated, they get mad, or whatever. If you know you have people who are weaker with whether it's their knots or their SCBAs, don't embarrass them. Don't put them in, get someone with them. Maybe break them up into groups and have somebody working with people and so on and so forth. But number one, be there early, get it set up, make it interesting. I'm a big one on train them on what they need to know now, Tom. I mean, no disrespect, but I can't remember the last time we trained on salvage covers doing the chutes and ladders. We train on stretch and hose. We train on throwing ladders. We train on wearing our air packs. We train on firefighter rescue. We try to do live burns, or we try to at least simulate or do whatever. The room orientation, the search drills, on our hands and knees. Heck, there's not enough time in the year to get through all the topics we need to. So you know what? Teach them what they need to know. Teach them that stuff that's going to keep them alive. Teach them that stuff and then when you get fit some other things in, you can later. But make it interesting. Stay fresh with it. And you hit some of the great topics at the beginning. Be ready. Be prepared. And know your stuff. Or get a couple of years. A team and all that. Don't talk down. Everybody's learning. We've all been there. Embrace everybody. Congratulate people on a great job. They'll be fired up. They'll want to do it again. Again, make it exciting for them.
Yeah, people have strengths and weaknesses, and learn about that. Again, it gets to know your people, and what I used to tell people too is especially the newer officers, pick some things that you want to get really good at, and learn as much as you can about it, and eventually don't be afraid to start teaching on some topics that I remember. For me, I remember when my chief years ago said, "Merrill, you're going to do a foam drill." I didn't know anything about foam, but boy, did it force me to learn a little bit, because I was not going to embarrass myself. But I went up to also some senior members, some senior officers. They worked with me, but find some things but maybe I didn't want to know foam, but I was forced to. But then I found things that I really enjoyed. For me, it was the nozzles and engine work and things. I know you're a big truckie, Chief. I was an engine guy because I got a little size difference. And as a little guy, I loved the engine work, so I became passionate about that. And I didn't know what a TFT nozzle was, or a straight tip or smoothbore was, but I certainly learned. And then I got fired up and started teaching it. And before I knew it, Merrill was the go-to guy for nozzles and appliances in my firehouse. But my passion then would be passed on to those that I was teaching and instructing. So that's another part of making a good drill, having that passion, that enthusiasm, the knowledge, doing the research ahead of time, being prepared. There's so much. I don't buy it when people say that there's nothing they can do for drills. There's so much you can do for having drills and making them interesting. And I love your backup plan idea. I used to say have a plan for good attendance, have a plan for bad attendance. You might have a drill where you need 20 people, but only 6 show up. Okay, don't let it ruin your drill. Have a plan B in your back pocket. And
exactly. And you just said it. I mean, having your go-to people that you could turn to and go, where's Merrill at? Hey, Tom, come here. I need you, buddy. I need this drill for next week, or I need this, or I need it, whatever. And you said it. You're exactly right. Makes my teeth itch when people say there's nothing to train on, nothing to drill on. First of all, today with the internet, today with YouTube, today with all the apps on your phones, and here it is. You give me a pumper. I actually did this once. Give me a pumper, and I'll give you 2 drills a week for 2 years minimum, and not do the same drill twice. You know what I'm saying? Think about a pumper. Think about you just give me a cross lay. Everything we talk about, flows and how to handle it and how to move it and how to roll, all the different things, the 2.5 and the 5-inch and the 100 and stuff. Oh my God, all the tools and appliances and stuff. It's just, there's so much. There's no excuse for not training your people. There's no excuse.
Oh.
Now again, this goes back to what you said. Back to the leadership thing. If the officers are going to hide in the kitchen or hang out in the office and send the boys and girls down to the floor, I'm not saying you have to be involved in everything, because I know your time is precious. Maybe that's the time you get caught up in some things. But good bosses, they train with their troops. They're with their troops. Sometimes they're the first one to do the drill. The top. Who's up first? I want to do it. And the lieutenant, wow, you see Cap jumped in there. And they're not afraid to fail or try it over or whatever. Do it over again. But be involved. Don't hide. Be involved. Be part of the drill. Be part of the team, not part of the furniture, right? And the younger folks are going to see that. Then, it goes back to I'll brag about our buddy John Salk again, sitting down in Texas at a TEACS Leadership and Safety Conference, and somebody posts on Facebook, "I'm sitting in the class, so and so's teaching it, and Chief John Salk is sitting in the front row taking notes." And I'm like, yeah, that's because that's John. John's always learning. John's always looking. That's what good guys do. And it's almost amazing. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, and I'm telling you, who do you want? I'll throw it even further. Who would you want your kid crawling into a burning building with tonight? If your kid got turned around and lost and, spun around the smoke and was run out of air, if I picked 3 of your company officers, all right, and allowed you to pick one of the 3 for your kid to be trapped in a burning building, would you pick one over the other 3? You're damn right you would. And the question is, why'd you pick him or her over the other 2? And where do you fall in that line? Whose kid's crawling into a burning building with you? How serious do you take this stuff? So be into the drill. You know what I'm saying? It's all that goes back to the leadership thing as to who do you have wearing the trumpets.
We could, again, talk all night about, but you bring up another key leadership point. I know you mentioned it earlier, and I just want to reinforce it. Again, you're that chief sitting out there looking in the mirror. What can I do better, or what can I do to maybe be a change agent for my department? Or even if you're a young wannabe chief or wannabe officer, or you're that lieutenant or captain, this is for everybody. And, Chief, I know you agree with this, and we've heard the expression, if you're going to be a leader, you got to be a reader. Now, again, with the Internet age, I understand people might want to go on the Internet and look too, which is great, but you've got to stay well-versed with what's going on in the fire service and understand current events, current ideas, trends. You've got to read and educate yourself. It never ends, correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You said it. Our good friend Mike Dugan, retired FDY captain, volunteer, all that. Mike Dugan, this month's Fire Rescue magazine just came out in January. I'm in there with my article, "Do You Own or Rent a Job?" Mike's in there. He has a column. He has a series he's doing in there called "It's Leaders or Readers," and he's taken it a step further, like a lot of us did, where there are so many great books for the fire service. And again, a lot of people talk about pride and ownership or first and last out, John. There are so many great. I'm looking at them on my shelf. So many great books for the fire service. There's so many great. The video streaming project. Here's something. Fire engineering, Tom. You know this. The video streaming project. Email me at 5alarmleadership@gmail.com. I'll send you the flyer. As soon as it came out, where I was interim chief this last year, I went and bought it for my guys. I went up, told the city manager I need. It's a measly. It's actually $600. It's a measly $500 if you use my coupon code. All right, it's $500. And Tom, it used to be like my pride and ownership video that Penwell did. Well, they sell it. They sell it for like $400-something. You buy one more video, you're at $600 already, right? And you can't burn copies. And you can't do stuff. You pay the subscription to Fire Engineering's video streaming project. You type in the code. I had been pushing this for a long time, and I'm honored they actually put a code in there with my name. Okay, you put that in there. You type it. I used to say we need Netflix for firefighters, right? And you do this. And I know you're familiar with this one. If you get all, it's actually more. Last January it was 175 videos. You get all the videos, as many times, often on, start to stop, all this different stuff. You want to watch them all of them for $500. You put the coupon thing, and it goes down to $500. You get 5 users. If you need more users, it's only $5 a piece. Not like hundreds, like Microsoft license. Here's another tool. Here's another device for you to use for training your members, especially with those with limited budgets. $500, your entire video library just went and filled up, and throughout the year they're adding new releases and they're adding keynotes, and I've done about 25, 30 training nuggets on pride and ownership that are going to be added. My Champo, everybody's adding stuff. There's going to be all kinds of things put into this program, so you've got that. But back to the readers or leaders. There are so many great great reads out there for firefighters and for officers, fire service related, yes, and there's some that, whether it's Colin Powell's book, It Worked for Me, or Marcus Luttrell's Lone Survivor, or Amershoff's It's Your Ship, or Tony Dungy's Quiet Strength, or, I mean, I could go down, Hal Moore on leadership, General Hal Moore, I mean, just, right?
I'm in the middle of that one right now, How to Lead When Outgunned and Outmanned. I'm in the middle of that book right now, and I'm highlighting things. My professional page is going to have a lot of quotes from him coming up because, wow. But what a great point. They don't have to be fire books. They don't have to be fire books.
Seriously.
You can learn from all these people.
Yeah, we started this thing, with it all started with a book I love, I'm very passionate about, called, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. I talk about every pride and ownership class. It changed my life forever, as a father, as a husband, as a firefighter, as a fire chief, as a person, as a friend. It's an incredible book, absolutely incredible book. When you talk, like you just said, with Hal Moore on leadership, I know Mike Dugan has pushed this one for a long time. Our good friend Mike, The Mission, the Men, and Me. You were talking about prioritization.
Got that for Christmas. Just finished it.
There you go. So there's so many great reads out there that will help you be a better person in general, be a better boss. It'll expand your horizon. It's kind of funny. In Louisville, they had the Readers or Leaders program, and a handful of us used to kick it off every year for all the other departments. They'd bring them all in, one of the departments, Public Works and City Hall and all that. And in my PowerPoint presentation, Tom, a lot of us old people used to like a show called Happy Days with the Fonz, with Fonzie, right? Arthur Fonzarelli. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, there was this particular episode. What happened was the National Association of Librarians wrote Gary Marshall, all right, the director, producer, Gary Marshall, a letter saying library card issuance and library usage is at an all-time low. Everybody loves the Fonz. Can you have the Fonz say something positive about libraries and the use, that? And they wrote an episode, if you remember, where Fonzie walks into Cunningham House and you hear, the crowd, the audience obviously cheers, and you hear Fonzie, and you hear this guy Arthur, and you go, where you been, Fonz? And he says, I was downtown. He goes, I was at a building that has walls full of knowledge and stuff, and he went through this whole thing. He goes, I got it all. He goes, and you know what? The best part about it, it's free. And he says, all you got to do is get one of these, a library card. Whoa, something along those lines. Factual, you can Google it. If it's on Google, it's true. But no, it's a true story. Library card issuance went up the following week 500%. 500%. Because one guy. So let's take it on let's take it on a little bit smaller level. When you're talking at the firehouse, and like you just said, hey, guys, anybody read this book yet? Oh my God, I'm right in the middle of Hal Moore on leadership. Remember from We Were Soldiers and all the stuff where Mel Gibson played him. There's going to be someone else that's going to go, really? Or when you're done with it, you hand it off to someone, and you go, take a look at this. Disregard all the stuff I highlighted. Highlight your own stuff, Oh my God, it's catchy. It's absolute. By the way, coincidentally,
it sure is.
Bruce Crandall, Snake, the helicopter pilot, from We Were Soldiers, that flew, he's a friend of mine. He's a Medal of Honor recipient, and he's a great man. Great man.
Amazing.
But it doesn't have to be. Like I said, there's tons of great reads in the fire service. Frank Vescuvio's got some great stuff, and
the Step Up Lead series.
Oh yeah. Look at what Paul Combs is doing. Paul Combs is saving lives with his artwork.
Absolutely.
And Tom, there's stuff that's no longer in print that you can get. There's books on the history of the fire service that I always tell people about. If you go to abebooks.com, like Abe Lincoln, abebooks.com, type in an author's name or a book title, you'll probably find whatever book you're looking for that's no longer in print, and you'll probably pay more for shipping than you will for the book, unless you want a mint condition. There's some great books on the history of the fire service, why we exist. Tom, there's a book by a guy named there's 3 books I always tell people about, And there's a book written by it's called Fire in America by a guy named Lyons, Lyons, Fire in America, and it's his 1970s edition, and it starts with Jamestown and works its way all the way to the 70s actually, because that's when it was written. How fires have molded the fire service and pushed us to where we're at today. Then there's a book called The Romance of Firefighting, written by a guy named Holzman, Holzmon, and it was published in the 50s, which is kind of funny because towards the end of the book he shows a picture of like a 54 LaFrance engine. He calls, look at the new fandangle gauges and stuff. But he's talking about horses and helmets and buckets and stuff, and you can't put it down. And then Cannon's book, The Heritage of Flames, the 1970s edition, kind of takes it. These are books that are old. You can still get them, and they'll fire you up about the job, and they'll get you sitting down at the kitchen table in the firehouse, talk with your guys about the history of the fire service and stuff and why we exist. Oh, my God, there's just so much out there, Tom. I'm so glad you brought that up. It's so huge.
You know, actually, I'm going to bring you back on another show because I want to talk more about fire service history. As you talk, though, I'm looking at my bookshelf, and because of your show that you did years ago with our Glenn Corbett, the professor, I have history... Heritage of Flames and The Romance of Firefighting staring me in the face right now. And I would love to have him on one of my shows, but he could not do Tuesday nights, so I haven't been able to work it out. I think I'm going to bring you on again, Chief, to talk. We're going to talk history of firefighting because that was one of my subtopics for tonight that we're just not going to have time to get to. I could keep you for 3 more hours, but holy cow, do people... you know what I'm finding too? Now you got me going. But here's another thing, because I do a presentation called History, Heritage, and Pride, and I talk about a brief history of the American Fire Service and why we should understand it. And then I talk about how people can work to preserve their own department's history, because I'm finding as I travel, the history isn't well preserved in some cases. In some cases, it's immaculately preserved, but it's sad when it isn't. So then I talk about what people can do to preserve it starting today. And there'll be times I'm in a firehouse and they'll have a beautiful painting or a beautiful 8x10 or even bigger photo from years ago. And the first thing I say is, who is this person? And you know how many times I hear people say, we don't know? And that's sad, because obviously it was somebody of importance in that department. So the point here is there's a whole podcast coming on the history of the American Fire Service, why it's important as professional volunteer firefighters to understand not just American Fire Service history, but then your own department's history as well. Because you need to remember the people who built your department and made it what it is. And somebody once told me, when there's photos up of them and you tell their stories, they never really die. They're with you forever. It's so important.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I do. One of the classes that it's an offshoot of a class that Glennie and I did, Corbett, Professor Glennie, years and years ago. We did tradition at the IC. It's a class I do.
I was in that class. You're aging us.
It was 2002, but it was the class I kind of pulled to now from that over the past umpteen years now is our history. This should be day one of the Fire Academy. And if you really want your firefighters to understand what it is, to truly wrap their up, I have my own museum. I'm a historian. I love teaching the real stuff, because there's a lot of fairy tales about cows kicking over lanterns and, you know, the gangs in New York and not having the right insurance mark and all kinds of stuff that we don't. But the history of the fire service, and then you mingle in your own department's history in there, and all kind of flows like you're going through this, and you go, oh, wait a minute, that's when we create our own fire department. Oh, look, this was our first firehouse, and I think it helps. It gets people dialed in, Tom. They know why we're here. They know why there's red lights there for the fire engine. It's all telegraph driven. They know what the 4-5 stand for. It's all telegraph driven. How we talk on the radio, tamping out the fire, strike exit alarms, box alarms, all that stuff is all telegraph driven. The tools, and they weren't pike pole ladder trucks. They were hook and ladder trucks. And you know, how do you tell a Halligan from a just another similar to a Halligan tool, and why we exist? Why they put mercaptan and natural propane gas, and why we have codes and why we do inspections and pre-plans and why we do truck checks and all this stuff. It all makes sense when we teach them and we show them the history of the fire service.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all the light bulbs start flashing over. They go, oh, I get it now. I get it. They show up for meetings more. They show up earlier for drill night. They show up for more calls because they get it. Because they understand.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be honored to do it with you.
Oh, that would be fantastic. It just is an amazing topic. For a training night one night, we're lucky in Buffalo, New York. Buffalo Fire Department has a local history museum dedicated to the fire service in our area. And one night when I was chief of department, it was a February night. It was a cold winter night, and I said, we're going to the local fire museum. And it was a great 3 hours spent with some tour guides who were retired Buffalo firefighters, the stories they told, the artifacts they exhibited. We were even able to make connections to our own department from years ago when our department went in and assisted the city on some mutual aid situations in some of the fires decades ago, and actually gave them one of our old apparatus. Our 1959 Gerstenschlager Heavy Rescue became Buffalo Fire Department Rescue 2 in the 1970s. We gave it to them, or somehow they got it from us, and there's pictures of that. Is it the emblems changing from Snyder to Buffalo? And anyway, it's just fascinating, and my members were able to connect dots on so many different things and why we do things in our area, and it was just an amazing training and drill night. And it's part of training. It's part of knowing why we exist, and it fires people up. So that's another topic for another night, if you don't mind. We are going to do that.
You just said Gerstenschlager. Remind me of, I can't tell how many times I drove that thing. You know, this big, gigantic box. I mean, look, or the bread truck, as some people used to call it. But oh my God, yeah, no, absolutely. If you just count me in, buddy, I would love to do that. I know how it's amazing how fast when you're doing these, the time just flies, and you know what I'm saying. It's just I wish we had more time, buddy.
I know, and one last thing I just want to emphasize, and we covered it, but I want to just reemphasize it again because I know I'm getting some pings and some emails net about, again, it's a new year, new chiefs, new officers. We've covered a lot of things that people can do to fire themselves up, to move in the right direction, and the leadership books that we just mentioned, they all, in so many of the other things we talked about, they all point in a general direction of, you want to make change as an officer or as a chief, learn how to deal with people. Learn to understand people. Learn that not everyone thinks the way you think. Learn what makes them tick. Learn how to run a professional operation that accepts people of all learning curves, all education levels, a diversified workforce today, and learn how to mold them into a professional fire department. And it's all about taking care of people and understanding people. Yes, you can still set a bar. Yes, you can have thresholds and training guidelines and rules and regulations. Yes, you can even have probie chores. We talked about bullying and harassment. That's not tolerated. There's nothing wrong with having probies take out the garbage on drill or training night. No, if it's done respectfully and in the right manner. But don't you agree, so much of the leadership problems we are facing is just the inability to work with people and understand people and establish expectations and just hold people accountable to a certain level.
Oh, exactly. It all comes down to leadership. It all comes down to, like you said, understanding people, what makes people tick, that everybody has things going on in their life. Every single person in your fire department has something going on, whether it's good or not so good or challenging. They've got financial problems, kid problems, parent problems, marital problems, relationship problems, all kinds of things. Or they've got everybody's got ups and downs, knowing that your people are human, knowing that they're going to go through those ups and downs, knowing they're going to have their peaks and their valleys, knowing that everybody has strengths, weaknesses, all that stuff. Like you said, understand. I had a section in Pride Orange Show talking about we need to read people like we read smoke. We talk about how good we are at tactics and strategy, which really aren't that good because we choose the wrong lines and we read the smoke the wrong way in the building, but we need to get better at paying attention to our people, like you said. Golly, just paying attention to our folks, reading our people, looking at and trying to identify what makes them tick, you know what I'm saying, and go from there. you know?
Absolutely.
Knowing your people, we're nothing without our people. We're absolutely nothing without our people.
Yeah, it's so true. Absolutely so true. And I can't thank you enough for taking 2 hours tonight to come onto the show. And I've got pages of notes that I've been scribbling down, and I've also got pages of other topics that had I had time to get to, I think we would have gotten to it. But my gosh, we covered so much. Chief, if people want to talk to you more, and I know they do. I mean, I know you're so busy going about the country and teaching and that. But if people had questions, maybe they didn't want to call in tonight to talk about their firehouse issue or leadership issue they're facing, but maybe they'd be more comfortable reaching out to you personally. How can people get a hold of you, Chief?
I think the best way, my website, prideandownership.com, has all my contact, has my cell phone and my email and that. But that's probably it. The easiest way is go to Pride and Ownership, A&D spelled out, prideandownership.com. Has my cell phone number on there, has my email address. Now, it may take me a day to get back to you. I get a lot of stuff every day, but I do answer. I do the best I can. I'd be honored, if you have a question or whatever, I'll do my best to answer your question or, pick up the phone and talk to you. Sometimes when I'm in a hotel room, I'm traveling, I can get some phone calls done. But it's truly been an honor, buddy. I can't thank you enough, Tom, for what you do. I know we say it a lot, and I was excited. I couldn't wait to get on with you tonight. I can't. What you're doing is just incredible. I love it. The professional volunteer fire department is it's huge. Just showing people how to do it, reminding people how to do it, just reminding firefighters, to remind volunteer firefighters that you are huge. You are huge. You are huge in your community. You are huge in this country. You make a difference every single day. Don't think you don't. It doesn't matter how busy or slow. But again, just incredible things you're doing, buddy. I'm just honored to be with you tonight, pal.
Well, thank you so much, Chief, and I look forward to seeing you down the road. If not sooner, I'll definitely see you at FDIC. Unfortunately, our classes are at the exact same time, so I know you're going to pull my audience into your class. You're in Chief Salka's class. I got to talk to Mr. Halton about that scheduling, but nobody wants to be opposite you and Chief Salka. But thank you so very much. It was a true honor. Thank you for everything you do. And again, I'm definitely looking forward to having you on a future show, and I'm going to definitely make that main topic talking about our great fire service history.
Outstanding, brother. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk soon, brother.
All right, Chief. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much.
Thanks,
folks.
God
what
bless,
a great show tonight. Absolutely. God bless, Chief. What a great show. I have pages of notes, and hopefully you do too. Hopefully we help cover some of the topics you were looking for us to cover. If not, again, feel free to reach out to me. Give my Facebook page, the Professional Volunteer Fire Department, a like. Send me a message. Email me at tamerrill63@aol.com. And Merrill is Merrill. I'd love to hear from you. Love to try and bring my presentation your way if you'd be interested. But love to just share the message on the great professional volunteer fire service. And again, there's so much we can do to create an exciting environment in our firehouses, to provide good leadership, to understand our people, to get people focused together on one mission, and that's service. And Chief Lasky and I, we finished up talking a lot about history, which I am very passionate about, and we hit on it a little bit earlier. We hit on what a somber night tonight is in the annals of the American Fire Service. For it was in 2005 on this date that 3 FDNY firefighters were killed in 2 fires, 2 horrific fires. The one, of course, in the Bronx, where firefighters were forced to bail out of a window, killing 2, and then ultimately taking the life of a 3rd. And then at a fire later in Brooklyn that day, another firefighter was killed. We'd be remiss if we didn't remember the somber day that today is. And again, we talk about it to remember them. And I ask you to look into the stories of these fires because, like every tragedy, there's lessons to be learned. And we can pay them the respect they deserve by learning what led to their deaths. And that was in 2005 on this date, January 23rd, 3 FDNY firefighters were killed in what was known as Black Sunday. It was the deadliest day for the FDNY, of course, since events of 2001. And again, 6 firefighters on the 4th floor of this building in the Bronx were forced to jump out windows, and 2 were killed in the fall, and 1 later on. Joey DiBernardo died 6 years later. And then later that day at a Brooklyn fire, firefighter was killed at that fire as well. We'd be remiss if we didn't remember them. We'd be remiss if we didn't learn about who they were and studied what led to their tragic deaths. Again, if you'd like to reach out to me, feel free. I appreciate you taking the time to listen in tonight. And as I do every show, or try to anyway, I always like to end on a shout-out, because there's so many great people out there in the volunteer fire service and so many great volunteer fire departments. And tonight I'd just like to give a shout-out to a firefighter by the name of Al Ewing Sr. in the Fawn No. 2 Volunteer Fire Company in Fawn Township, Pennsylvania. Chief Ewing, almost 81 years of age, just stepped down as the chief of department in Fawn No. 2 Volunteer Fire Company. He's been a chief since 1971, and he's going to remain an active firefighter, and that's just an unbelievable accolade to be a chief since 1971, and people had great things to say about him, and very dedicated to what he did. And he was very businesslike when it came to firefighting, very held true to his beliefs, and but also kept up with the times. He was a retired railroad worker, and he's going to continue being an active firefighter. We'd just like to give a shout-out to firefighter Al Ewing Sr., Chief Al Ewing Sr., Fawn No. 2 Volunteer Fire Company, Fawn Township, Pennsylvania. Great job. At 80 years of age, almost 81, just stepping down as chief officer, and he's been the chief since 1971. Folks, my next show is scheduled for Tuesday, March 13th, and again, I will try to bring up topics that are pertinent and concern the volunteer fire service. Thank you for tuning in tonight, wherever you happen to be listening, or whenever you happen to be listening. Thank you for listening in. And I just ask that you remember what we talked about tonight in the main point of the program, that being professional, it has absolutely nothing to do with earning that paycheck. It has absolutely everything to do with delivering competent, compassionate service, taking care of customers, and also taking care of our own members. And it's all of our duty and all of our responsibility as firefighters to develop, maintain, and uphold that professional reputation. Take care, folks. Thanks for listening. God bless.